Yeah, I tell Jody all the time in April, nobody cares about the running game. Nobody. They don't care about running backs. They don't care about undersized defensive ends or Sam linebackers or weak side linebackers. And then all of a sudden, December shows up, and I don't know, Derrick Henry's on the schedule, and you're like, oh, uh-oh.
John McMullen, Jody McDonald. We are joined by Chris Franklin from NJ.com. Now, I think he's broadcasting from a new outlet. We've seen you in different places, Mr. Franklin.
He's in the newsroom, I think.
Yep.
What's that backdrop you got going today?
That's actually the T from the Gloucester County Times. That's that they used the old building that we used to be at. So I'm in the newsroom again. It's like my.
I thought I was going to have to go like this. I thought it was some
Wait, if I just rise
artifact.
Oh, it's a fun time. It's my second home. I mean, got the TVs going. I break down draft film here, see everything going. Eagles. Might as well go ahead and get a bed right over there at times. It feels like, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, the newsroom days. It's I miss them, Chris. I'm in my home studio, but we'll see. It is draft week. But before I get to draft week, we haven't brought this up yet in this program, but it is also the start of the Eagles offseason program. And one of the big moves, if you want to call it big, is the move from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside from wide receiver to tight end, as our buddy Jeff McClain reported last week. What do you think about that move? You think it's just a last-ditch effort? You think it's a legitimate chance to find a roster spot? Do you think the Eagles are just writing him off, or is this a legitimate opportunity to make this football team?
It felt like that move happened last year when we saw him just basically blocking on those screen passes and just basically blocking on run plays. But I think for him, I think it's the best shot because I think that's the best chance that he has of sticking on this roster right now. When you just look at overall, it looks like they're going to take a wide receiver in this draft, so you lose a spot there. They seem dead set his appearance for, at least for now, Rager, and you got Smith, and then if they trade for somebody, you never know. They happen that way too. So that's the way. And then when you look at the backup tight end spot, it's a big question mark right now. He has a legit chance to compete. You got Tyree Jackson coming off that knee injury. You have Jack Stoll, who played a little bit more toward the end of the season, but you still have some questions about that. So he's got the route run. He's got to develop, is he good enough to block with his hand in the ground? If he develops that, all of a sudden now you're looking at your possible backup tight end and 12
Yeah, and it's not a great tight end draft. You don't look at the tight ends and say, because the Eagles could use some depth. Obviously, Dallas Goedert is tremendous as the starter, but Jack Stoll did a nice job. But I do think they would like some improvement at that tight end 2 position. And Tyree Jackson isn't going to have an off season because he tore his ACL in week 18. So maybe there is a little bit more to this move than just last ditch effort to save JJ's potential Eagles career.
And then look how many times can you keep bringing back Richard Rodgers as well too. There's only so many times you feel like, okay, yeah, we guys get excited. He's coming back for another year. Seen this film before. Okay, now. But when they're not afraid to go ahead and try to convert wide receivers to tight ends. We saw the Hakeem Butler experiment, even though it didn't work out well. But they've been trying to look for somebody to fill that type of role, like who's a good route runner and go ahead and attack the middle of the field. So they are hoping, I guess, he can do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's going to be on the team. I do not think he'll be one of the 53. But we got months and months and months to debate that. Instead, let's stay with today. Where John went, I'll follow up. What are the Eagles trying to achieve this week with their offseason workout? This is year 2, Nick Sirianni. This aligning practice from last year was just a, hey, how are you kind of guys get together, because most of the players hadn't had a chance to even shake Nick's hand yet. And when they did, they went to rock, paper, scissors. But we'll put that aside, too. What are they attempting to achieve this week, the Birds?
I think it's a couple of things. They first want to see is who actually stayed in shape and who got better. I think those are two things I think over who stayed in shape, especially because, a lot of times when you're at home, I know some of these guys are disciplined, but, you're out with your friends, you're out with everybody else, your family, and it's, how you doing? Cheeseburger, 2, 3, 4. Next thing you know, like, wait, we wanted you to play at like 320. Why are you up to 340 now? All right, get back in the gym. So I think that's one thing. And I think also else see who else actually showed some improvement. I mean, when you look at Jalen Hurts, if you get a chance to see how much he's improved and when it comes to his throwing motion, that'd be good. When you look at Jalen Rager, I mean, we keep hearing, oh, wow, he was in the gym. Well, did he actually improve? And can he actually translate that to the field? There's so many little things that you want to see these guys do. And then also, if you're like a guy like Jonathan Gannon, you have these new pieces, maybe you kind of want to see how they go to fit, start floating some ideas over, see how you want to play this year out too. So I think even though it's not, hey, they're on the field, you don't have those practices, it's still very important time to get, and even chemistry too. That's another aspect.
But the organizational philosophy with that, Chris, when we got to talk to Howie last week, I think it was Zach who asked him the question at the end of the press conference, and he kind of, shrugged it off. I'm thinking about the draft, and he shrugged that one off to Nick Sirianni, which I thought was kind of ironic because I don't know if Nick Sirianni's the one driving this. Do you get the feeling that he's driving this? And by driving, I mean the Eagles started a week late than they could have. They scrapped mandatory minicamp. They're one of 2 NFL teams that aren't having any mandatory work. I've yet to meet the football coach I always say that doesn't want to practice. Is he the first football coach that really doesn't want to practice and doesn't see that much value in the off-season work?
I think it's more of the sports science guys get in the air going, hey, we have this new study here saying that we want to prevent soft tissue by 17%. And I think it's more of that one too, because every coach wants to get every opportunity, every minute to try to instill whatever the philosophy they have. They want to have that. And the fact, I don't mind that there's not mandatory ones, because I think these guys pretty much know it's mandatory, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And you want to get these, and they're going to show, most of the guys, like 85, 90% of guys are going to show up anyway. I think it's more of the aspect of, I think he's still trying to be that player's coach, like he will still wants to be hard of them, but enough that he goes, you know what, hey guys, I know I'm caring about your health and everything else like that. But it just feels like that's the new sports science side is having a lot of say when it comes to like how much often they practice and stuff like that, especially when it comes to, hey, they're starting so late now heading into the draft time.
Since it is the Eagles' first workout day, and they're probably not going to do anything overly organized and or run plays from scrimmage or anything like that. But that will come as the offseason plays on. Are you more excited or more worried about Miles Sanders this offseason? And here's why I asked the question. Miles knows it's a big year for him, contract coming. They're looking to cut back on second time around contract for all running backs that are like, you can go so crazed that you're so good that a team can't even envision being without you. So they got to give you some decent money. Or he could try and do too much, and he could try and push the envelope, and he could get a little sloppy with the football because he knows how big a year this is for him. Which one rings more true in your mind? Miles Sanders motivated going off, or Miles Sanders motivated making mistakes?
I'm more worried about him being being too motivated, in the sense that I think that he's going to be trying that. Because listen, going into this year, I know we're going to ask him, like, that first day he's available, we see him, what's going on? Why haven't you gotten a contract extension? How do you feeling? And that weighs in your mind. And you feel like, oh, they don't want to give me a contract extension. They think, or heck, if they take somebody in the draft, oh, they want to bring somebody and replace me. I'm going to show them. I'm going to, if I don't show them, I'm going to show the next team that wants to sign me. And so you worry about him cutting and trying to do too much and press himself forward. And sometimes that leads to injuries. And we know his history when it comes to injuries as well, too. So stuff like that, I'm a little more worried he's going to try to do too much and not try to play within the system or play within himself. And that's setting up to something to be concerned about for the long run, because you know you're going to need him this year, especially with all the other pieces that you have currently right now in this offense. You don't have you have Boston Scott, you have Kenny Gainwell, but Miles Sanders is the best by far. I think when you look at that trio, but Miles is the best by far. You can't have him out missing games, so they have to find a way to rectify this soon. Either tell them, listen, we're just going to play this out the rest of the year, or actually extend them.
Let's talk about that extension. How do you see a path to an extension? Because I look at it this way, Chris. If Miles does sort of what you just described and Jody said, maybe presses a little bit too much, maybe has a bad season, well, the Eagles aren't going to want him. On the other hand, if he turns into the guy we all thought he could turn into, and he's a 1,400-yard rusher, he's going to be really expensive at a position they don't think is very valuable, looking for big money on a second contract, and he's probably not going to be here. Is there a path for Miles Sanders to get a second contract with the Eagles other than, with Jordan Howard type situation where the market isn't there and they say, oh, we'll bring it back?
I think there's a path, but I think it's getting very, very narrow each day it goes by. Because I still think that when you look at overall and the way the landscape is starting to shape out a little bit for that position, you're right. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're right. Like that position right now, when it comes to the Eagles or across the league, nobody's paying running backs big money like they're doing wide receivers and quarterbacks. But at the same time, when you look at the true, I'd probably say top half in the league, and I put Sanders up in that top half of the league. After that, I started to think like, okay, you got these tweeners, and there's not a guy who shows the ability to actually take over a game like he does. And we've seen what happens when he and Hurts are on read options and the explosiveness he goes. He ripped off 2 years ago, ripped off like three runs of 70 yards. He still has that capability. It's a matter of just the longer they wait, the longer they're setting themselves up to be without him next year. It just looks like that more and more.
All right. I'm pretty sure we had you on and asked about him, but I don't remember your answer. So I'm going to, I guess, ask you to reiterate. The Kaiser White signing for the Eagles, just a slight upgrade from Nate Singleton, a major upgrade that is being undersold. We're kind of questioning the Eagles' offseason moves after Hassan Reddick, nothing really jumping off the board. What is your evaluation of what kind of season Kaiser White's going to have for the Birds at linebacker?
I think when we look back at it, and I know it's not saying a lot because they haven't really made a lot of free agent moves, but I think they can look back when it's going to be one of the most. I think I'll go out and want to say this. I think it's going to be one of the most undersigned signings in the league this season. Because when you look at where the issues the Eagles had a lot last year, it was covering the tight ends in the middle of the field. I think they gave up the most either receiving yards or catch. I think it's receiving yards and touchdown receptions to the tight ends. And when you look at a guy who was a former safety, a guy who's real. I think, my opinion, is one of the better cover guys when it comes to linebackers, off the ball linebackers. You needed that. You needed to find a way to rectify it. And I think you can do so much with them. You can play them as the linebacker in a dime situation where you say, you know what, we're just going to let, hey, Kaiser, worry about covering the middle field. We'll just let the defensive backs take out the outer edges in the back and deep. Okay, cool. You look at a guy who you can bring off the edge, who's athletic enough, is fast enough, you can bring off the edge. Is he smaller? Yeah. Are you worried about now that you have Hassan Reddick and Kaiser White, two smaller linebackers now, you're susceptible to run? Yeah.
Good
but
point,
the thing
Chris.
is, it's scary. But the thing is, when you look at the way that offenses are going now, they're throwing 60% of the time now. So you rather take the gamble and be able to do that. So especially with the underneath stuff and the way they like to play deep in the zone coverage, having a guy like that underneath to take care of the linebackers and take care of the running backs and the tight ends, you're going to need it like White. I think he's going to excel.
Yeah, I tell Jody all the time in April, nobody cares about the running game. Nobody. They don't care about running backs. They don't care about undersized defensive ends or Sam linebackers or weak side linebackers. And then all of a sudden December shows up and I don't know, Derrick Henry's on the schedule and you're like, oh, we got to find a way how to stop the run. I don't want to overstate it because obviously you have to throw the ball to win in this league consistently. And from a defensive standpoint, that means you should be spending more time trying to figure out how to stop the pass. But isn't there got to be a happy medium? I think you bring up a good point with Reddick trying to set the edge at times and Kaiser White trying to support the run on the second level. That's a bit of a red flag to me. Am I overstating it?
No, but also it makes me wonder if you're going to play a little bit more 3-4 than what we're expecting too. I wonder if you're going to use Reddick to be like that guy that lines up on there But then also I think you see more four running back sets, if it's more down, especially against when they play Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sean Bradley and TJ Edwards in the middle, and then you let Kaiser White and Reddick do their thing on the outside. So you would think there'd be more balance. I think for the Eagles, they need more pieces because if Gannon wants to be as versatile as he really truly wants to do, I think you need pieces like him to say, okay, which way are they going to rush off the edge? Can you get back and actually, disguise a zone instead of just worry about, hey, this guy is going here, which we saw so many times. Wow, I wonder where Alex Singleton's going to go in that zone because he's staying right there because that was so. I wouldn't be surprised to play more 5-1. So there's so much you can do with this. So with these pieces now with that, so it's going to be interesting to see.
All right, little crystal ball peek for you, Mr. Franklin.
All right, let me grab it real quick. All right, cool.
Which Watkins is going to have a better statistical year, Quez or Sammy?
I might go Jalen. Is he still in the league?
Well, we'll all agree that Danny Watkins is better than Danny Watkins.
Yeah,
we'll agree that's better than that. Yeah. But I think overall, looking at the way he could be used and utilized, I think Quez is primed for a really good season. I mean, talking to somebody before, you look at the pressure he can put on a safety. If he's in the slot, the pressure he can put on a safety with his speed it really can be utilized. It's a matter of if you can get the ball to him as well too, and utilize him and find creative ways to get him in there, and not just talking about, oh, let's go ahead and throw like a quick wide receiver screen. Quez, try to do your thing. We're like, nah. I think if you scheme him up the right way, he can be a valuable piece. And I look at Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins, I have a lot of high hopes when he was first drafted. I really thought he was going to be
like everybody
like a Mike Evans type guy. You just look at him, it's like, oh wow, this guy's he's a physical specimen. He could basically play bully ball, the football version of bully ball. Okay, it's great, and he's just falling off, and it's sad seeing a way when you have a guy like that. But who would have thought? Yeah, who would have thought Quez Watkins looks like to have a better outcome? And
I know it's an unfair stat, but yeah, I'm going to take Sammy because he's getting the ball from Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say, if Sammy's going to play, that's the key to the question. If Sammy's going to play, he's going to have bigger numbers because Aaron Rodgers is throwing them the football. But, Green Bay, if they take a receiver in the first round and he's not playing, then obviously Quez Watkins. But that brings us to the Eagles. How much is Quez Watkins going to be the wide receiver 2 or the wide receiver 3? That's what I will ask you to look into your crystal ball. Are they going to get a receiver that pushes Quez Watkins into a better position, a domino effect that I think is better for the Eagles and him? Because I think he's a wide receiver 3. I don't think he's a wide receiver 2.
Here's the reason why I think so. I think they take Chris Olave and they push almost a similar thing like they do with Jalen Reagor, thinking, oh, okay, he's a better fit for this offense. And then they move Watkins to 3, trying to plug and play him. I really think it just feels like they're going that route. And to me, I wouldn't do that. I agree. I think Quez is more of a wide receiver 3, but I would have loved them to see break up a true veteran receiver. And not to knock Zach Pascal, because I think he's good for what he is, but I don't think he's a wide receiver 2. So it's almost like he's going to have to be 2 by default. It's like, well, we ain't putting Reagor in there. Well, JJ's a tight end now. Hey, what's up, Quez? Hey, we always believed you're a wide receiver 2. Yeah, go out there and until I talk themselves into it a little bit more and more. But I like what he brings. I just don't know that if he's the right guy, like as a wide receiver 2 as of right now. You need get a veteran guy, or trade Jameson Williams, or put George Pickens, somebody like that, put him in the 2, and then you use him in 3. But it's slim pickings in that wide receiver room right now.
So you don't like Chris Olave? I'm a little bit surprised by that. I like Chris Olave for this reason, Chris, for the Eagles, because he can run routes. I think he's the best route runner amongst the rookie receivers. Maybe Jameson Williams. I should put Jameson Williams, but I don't think Jameson's going to be there. So if I put Jameson aside, because that's the player I would want for the Eagles, not for a bunch of other teams, but for the Eagles, I would want Chris Olave next, because they haven't shown me any evidence they can utilize manufactured touch players or big receivers like Drake London with the back shoulder stuff and they can't do that stuff. So I just want the guy that can run routes and can get open. And I think that's the best fit for the Eagles. Am I being too harsh on them?
Not necessarily. I think when I look at Olave, I just look at what's probably going to be on the board when they're picking either 15 or 18, probably 18. But for him, I think it's going to be around the 18. When I look at the board and I just look at what this team really, really needs, and I look at the edge rushers, I look at the defensive tackle, like a guy like Jordan Davis or Wyatt. I look at, and then you have Olave, you compare him to some of the other guys that could be down there. When you look at Pickens, when you look at, I don't want Sky, I like Simon, but I think he's more of a slot guy, and his team needs more of a big one. But I like Pickens a lot. I really like George Pickens. So much so that I would consider giving one of the fifths up to move up in the second round to get him that much, because I think he's that big of a physical guy. I just think this team needs a bigger physical guy who's also a good route runner. I think Pickens is a good route runner too. And so, and see, the reason why I know they're going to pick a lot is just feels like that because we hear every time Sirianni, when he talks, like he loves the way to rate guys, he emphasizes route running, and it's just, looking for just one need with this team right now is not the direction I think they need to go. I really think they need to get some size on that outside and a guy who can be a game breaker, especially in the red zone. Because when you look at some of these receivers they have, Dallas Goedert's really the only truly big target that you have down there. I know Devonta Smith can get open. He can get open in that area, but I just look at Pickens. I just see a guy who can be your red zone threat and has another one and just truly spreads that offense out in that area.
All right, Franklin. Next question is a two-parter. The first one is an under-over or a before or after, and then follow-up as well. Before or after midnight Friday? So we're looking past day one, day two of the draft. When will Andre Dillard be traded? Before or after midnight Friday? And if he is dealt, will he be dealt for a 2022 pick or another 2023 pick as how he continues to spread out his draft capital over years, if not decades?
See, I think it's going to be after. What I would do personally, if I was a GM, since there's talk of more player and picks combinations, and Seattle potentially is looking to get out at 9, maybe you throw 15, a third, and Dillard because they need a tackle. You float that out there and go, hey, I know you want to get.
And who are the Eagles taking at 9?
With the
You're doing it for a reason. You're doing it for a player. If you got him trading up from 15 to 9 with the Seahawks, Dillard's part of the deal because of a Seattle need. Who are the Eagles taking at 9?
Derek Stingley Jr.
Wow.
I still think I still think teams are going to think Gardner's the number one corner. And at 9, given that you don't have Steven Nelson, you struck out on Stephon Gilmore, I think Stingley Jr. is the guy I would use that. I use that on a corner. I package that to move up, and now you got somebody opposite of Darius Slay. You got 2 really good athletic corners on the outside with Avonte Maddox in there. I think you improve your defense a lot right there. That secondary looks a lot better now with those 3. If they were all together, I think that secondary looks a lot. So I would package Dillard that night, and if Seattle wanted a tackle and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, do it. Otherwise, I think there's a very good chance he's still on this roster when this draft's over. I really truly think that is. I don't know, just given the injury history. I mean, given like we saw what happened with Milan, I know it was a freak thing with his leg, but then also you need some depth guys, and Raven Clark isn't it for me. I'm sorry.
The Raven Clark, love the Raven.
But yeah, I just think that's the guy. That's the guy to. If he doesn't go at 9, if he don't trade him Seattle at 9, then I think he's staying on that roster personally.
All right. Well, I think I know where you're going. If Andre's going to be here, so Jalen Reagor going to be here on May 1st after the draft, or the Eagles going to get somebody to buy in? Maybe a team thinks back to the draft that year and says, oh, he's pretty explosive. Let's see if we can turn things around. Is there any way the Eagles can ship off Jalen Reagor during draft weekend?
I don't think draft weekend, but I think the day before, like for the final roster cuts, when teams are looking to finalize their roster, say, hey, I got a player I don't want. Hey, you got a player we don't want to have a need. Okay. I think that's when he goes. I really, truly think that they're going to try to if somebody's willing to pay a 5th for Reagor, 4th or 5th, you get pennies. I know it's pennies on a dollar. Take it. run and take it right now. Run up in that call right there. Call the league office. Put that thing through. Just put it through. But I think they're going to try to give this guy every chance they can to prove that he's all right. I mean, look. I mean, if what we're seeing with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and they're doing position switch to save him, they're definitely going to do the same thing, especially with Jalen Reagor, and give him every opportunity to prove that he's improved and prove that he can be a contributor in this offense.
All right, last one for me, and I expect a Chris Franklin tweet with picture included on this when you first get to an Eagle workout.
Okay.
Gardner Mustache, the Eagles' backup quarterback.
Okay.
Bigger and bushier, streamlined, completely gone, or we'll just go with those three. Bigger and bushier, streamlined, or completely gone. What will be your caption under your picture of Gardner Minshew's mustache?
I think it's going to be bigger and bushier, and I think it's going to be one of the ones where it looks like he's like, what? Gardner, we're not in the 80s anymore, man. You can get rid of it. It's all right. I mean, I like it, but yeah, come on, man. Like the team facial hair. All right, I'm cool with it, but that thing is like, yo, man, it's got a mind of its. We all know Stephen Colbert has that thing about I forget the former UN secretary, his mustache and everything else. It almost looked like he almost has his own avatar, his own character, where Gardner Minshew's mustache just starts talking to everybody else. That thing's gonna be that.
This is John Bolton.
Yeah, exactly.
John Bolton.
Yeah, John Bolton one. Yeah, it's going to have its own. I think, like John Bolton's thing that Colbert does. I think Gardner Minshew's mustache is going to have a life of its own and just take off. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Twitter account that pops up. Gardner Minshew's mustache is not out there already.
I think he's trying to compete with Ted Lasso for the best mustache on the planet. So would not be surprised if bigger and bushier is the way that it goes. Mr. Franklin, always a pleasure. Appreciate you coming on board. We'll get you back in a couple of weeks. Enjoy getting down covering the Eagles workouts and the draft this week. It'll be a busy one for you. Have a good time.
Thanks. Enjoy draft week, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. See you down there.
NJ.com. Hanging with us on Birds 365. All right. Coming back, we got to put a bow on the show, tell you about the big gathering coming up on Thursday for round one with your JAKIB media buddies, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, Birds 365.